Hello everyone, this is Prashanth. Let's continue with the last lecture. So in the last lecture, I discussed about the uh, IoT physical device and IoT physical devices and endpoints. So apart from that, we have another subtopic, that is web server for IoT. So here these two are special topics in module 5, that is web server for IoT and cloud for IoT. So these are the two topics are essential in the module 5, that is end servers, end users and IoT device. So let's start with the web server for IoT. So here I'm going to discuss about the table of content, or what are the web server for IoT included in the which topics. So here let's start with the web server architecture and approaches. Web server architecture and approaches means what? So either it is maybe single tier or double tier, multi tier, whatever the architecture having. So the entire things will discussed in the web server architecture and approaches. So next one, working of web server. So in order to work the web server, we have to follow some protocols or principles, whatever available in that content. So we have to follow. So that is the main working of web server and types of web server. So how many types of web server we are using right now nowadays? So in market we have so many web server. So minimum 3 to 5 web servers I am going to explain in this lecture, and which type of features it can provide to the users. That is the features of web server and benefits of web server. So by using a web server, we have some benefits that are going to discuss, and uses of web server. Top web server software, which type of software we can use to install, and when to use web server. When to use is nothing but significance of web server, and steps to use web server. So how many steps we have to follow to use a web server as per our requirement. So you start with the web server architecture, or to be the basic things, definition points regarding what is web server and working and architecture. So web server is a software application or software application or hardware device that stores, processes and server to web content to the web content to users over the internet. So this is the it is not a basically it is not a device. So it is a one software applications in order to drive the hardware devices by using web server. So this is the main thing about web server, and it plays a critical role in the client server model, or service request response model of the WWW World Wide Web, where client typically request to the web pages. So for example, www.IARE.ac.in. So this is one of the URL of our college. So here this is the input. So just you can type in the URL. So just when you click on the enter, the request will send to the server. So immediately it can receive the request from the client, and it fetches the information from the resources, whether it is www.iare.ac.in, whether it is available or not. It can once check and verify with the resources, and again it sent back to the client in terms of response. So that is the main process will occur to main role of web server. So here web servers are operate on the HTTP protocol, that is hypertext transfer protocol, which is the foundation of data communication on the World Wide Web. Next one, when you enter the website in URL into the browser, it sends the HTTP request to the web server of hosting that website, which is sent back to the response that you type in the URL. So this is the just introduction points regarding what is web server, what is the main function of web server, depends on the client server HTTP request model. Next one, web server architecture. So here we have two types of architecture. What is the single Second one is single multi-core architecture type we have. Web server architecture refer to the structure and design of web server, outlining how they handle the incoming request and deliver the web content. So just it can receive the some information, depends on that it can send back to the information. So sending, receiving and sending. So these are the two main critical roles of web server here. So that the points included in that first point. So the two main approaches of web server architecture is single tier or single server architecture. It contains in a single tier architecture the only single server is responsible for both incoming and outgoing request for serving web content, and this is suitable for small websites, applications and low traffic. However, it has some limitations in terms of scalability and fault tolerance. So it is the limitations for scalability and fault tolerance. If the servers goes down, the entire service becomes unavailable. So this is the advantage of single server architecture here. So here this is the just user DNS server and web server. So HTTP request with the data files, make HTTP request to the IP address, user request domain, and the user respond IP of web server. So this is just to architecture of single tier or single server architecture. It is responsible for both incoming and outgoing processing request and web server content. Both processing of request, incoming and outgoing data. So this is single tier server architecture here. The next one, multi-tier load balanced architecture. Multi-tier, or it is also known as load balanced architecture. So this is the architecture diagram of multi-tier architecture. In a multi-tier architecture, multiple servers are used to distribute the workload and ensure high availability. So in order to increase the scalability of the system or increase the fidelity of the system, the workload will be distributed to each equal parts. So the same principle will apply here, multi-tier architecture here. The multiple servers are used to distribute the workload to ensure high availability. So here the approach often involves load balancers that evenly distribute incoming requests across a cluster of web server. So the main advantage of multi-tier load balance architecture is in order to distribute among the request across the cluster of web server. So each server can serve web content independently. If one server is failed, the load balancer redirects traffic to healthy server, ensuring uninterrupted service. So in single tier, even one thing is fail, the entire system will collapse. But in multi-tier, even one is fail, don't worry about that. It will automatically recover and remaining data will process. So this is the diagram over the internet. 1, 2, 3. These are the end users or clients over the internet. This is the load balancer, software and hardware balancer. So this is the application server. Which application we are going to on which server. So then this is the entire block diagram of multi-tier architecture, that is second type. So the next one, working of web server. So in order to work of web server, we have different protocols here. So here we have obtain an IP address from the domain name, request full URL from the browser, and web server responds to the request. The last one, web page is displayed on the web browser. So these are the four input methods of working of web server here, from static data store to application data store. In static data store, we have statical data request, statistical data response on the web server, the service request to the application server, service response, and both based on the HTTP hypertext transfer protocol, it can to this server. So this is the working of web server, black diagram of working of web server. So here obtain IP address from the domain name. How it is? IP address is obtained in two ways, either by search or in the cache or requesting on DNS servers, and request full URL from the browser. After fetching IP address, a full URL is demanded for web server. A web server responds to the request. So in accordance with the a request a response is sent by the server. In case of unsuccessful request, otherwise appropriate error message is sent. So the web page is displayed on the browser. After getting the response from the server, the web server displays the result. So this is the complete explanation regarding working of web server with black diagram. Starting from static data store, it can fetch the information from the DNS server. After that, after getting, it can pass to the application data store. So this is the working of web server. Next types of web server. We have in market, we have different web servers available. So this is web server, just internet, just web server, just black diagram here. Types of web server is here. The first one, Apache HTTP server, Nginx server, Microsoft IaaS Internet Information Service server, and Lightspeed server. So the Apache server will start with first one. The Apache HTTP server here, it is the most popular web server, and about 60%. 60% of world web server machines run on the web server only. Entire wall, just we can use almost 60% of web content serve on the Apache HTTP server. It is developed by Apache Server Foundation. It is an open source software, which means that we can access and make changes its code and mold it according to our preferences. So as per our requirement, as per our as per our requirement, just we can use, we can modify or we can mold the code. So Apache web server can be installed and operated easily on almost operating system like Linux, Mac OS, Windows, etc. Operating system. So this is the first kind of web server, that is Apache HTTP server. The next one, Microsoft IaaS. IaaS stands for Internet Information Services. Microsoft IaaS. IaaS. So it is a high performing web server developed by Microsoft, and it is strongly united with the operating system and therefore relatively easier to administrator. So it is developed by Microsoft. It has a good customer support, which is easier to access if we encounter any issue with the server. So it has a full of all of the features of Apache HTTP server, except that it is not an open source software. Therefore, its code is inaccessible. So it is not open to all. We unable to modify code according to our preferences. So that is the main thing you need to remember for Microsoft IARE web server. Next one, Lightspeed. It is pronounced by lightly. It correctly runs about 0.1, only 0.1% of world website. Light had a small CPU load. It is therefore comparatively easier to run. So it is to open source software, which means that we can access the code and add changes to the according to our needs, and then upload our own module, that is the Lightspeed or Flylight. Next, Sun microsystem, Sun Java system. It is supports various languages, scripts, and technologies required for Web 2.0, such as Python, PHP, etc. So it is not an open source software. Therefore, its code is inaccessible, which means that we cannot make changes in the code to suit our needs. So this is the Sun Java, one type of system, Sun Java or Sun microsystem, developed by Sun Microsystem. Sun Java system is web server developed by Sun Microsystem. Next one, the last one, Jigsaw server here. Jigsaw has written in the Java language. It can run on the common gateway interfaces scripts as well as PHP programs. So every browser having one source code to run, like Java, Python, whatever the languages are having. So the Jigsaw server based on the Java language only. It is not full-fledged server. It was developed on experimental server and the new web page protocol. It is an open source, which means that we can access its code and add changes to according to our needs. Then upload our own module, change the code. It can be installed any device provided that the device supports language. So just Any system or any laptop or any PC, it can supported by Java. Compulsory it can support for Jigsaw server. So that is the main thing about web server, Jigsaw web server. Web server. The last next one, futures. What are the futures? Just we are going to study about web server here. So here we have 4 or 5 kinds of web server here. Content to delivery, content hosting. It can store, serve web content including HTML pages, images, videos, and other multimedia files. Content holding nothing but, for example, I want to open www.iare.ac.in. So today I am opening this web page site, that is okay. Next tomorrow, when I open the web web content, so just type I, the entire URL will appear on the screen. So that is the content holding. I am using www.iare.ac.in used in yesterday, but today when I type just I, first letter of website, it can display entire iare.ac.in. It can store, it can handle including web pages, images, videos, whatever I used in yesterday. The same content will be appeared by typing only single letter. So that is the one of the future of web server, that is known as content holding. Next one, hosting, security. It can provide some security protocols to us. Web servers implement various security mechanisms to protect against unauthorized access and cyber attacks. That is security. Next, load balancing. Some web servers can distribute incoming traffic across multiple servers instead of ensure optimal performance and availability. Next, logging and monitoring. They provide tools to track, analyze server performance, user access, and error log. That is logging and monitoring. Next, caching. Web servers can cache frequently accessed content, reduce server load, and improve response time. So these are the 5 features: content hosting, security, load balancing, logging and monitoring, caching. So these are the 5 features of web server. Next one, benefits. In order to improve the performance or scalability, reliability, security, customization. So these are 4 benefits of web server. We can just web server can handle a large number of simultaneous connections, making them suitable for high traffic websites. Reliability, they are designed for continuous operation and can recover from failure gracefully. Next is security. Web servers include security features to protect against common web threats like DDoS attacks and SQL injection malpractices. And customization web server configuration can be tailored and to specific application requirements. So this is the benefits by using web server. Next one, uses of web server. Just to use nothing but it is similar to features of web server. So hosting websites, web applications, file sharing, content delivery, and application program interfaces. Hosting. Hosting web page, we already know. Web application, it can, the server provides infrastructure for hosting web applications, enabling users to interact with software through web interfaces. And file sharing, the some of web servers are used for file sharing and collaboration, allowing users to upload and download files securely. Content delivery networks uses when servers distribute content like images, videos to user worldwide, reducing the time load times. Web servers are used to host APIs also, that allows application to communicate with the exchange data over the internet. So these are the some uses of web server, web application, in order to develop the high range of web applications, file sharing, file sharing, content delivery, API hosting. API hosting. They are the uses similar to features. Next, when to use web server. So, what is the main significance of web server here? When hosting a web page, hosting a website. If you want to make your own website accessible to the internet, you will need a web server to store and serve your web pages. So that is the need hosting web page. Next, building web application. When building web applications, web servers can host web applications, providing the necessary infrastructure for users to access and interact with your software. And load balancing. Load balancing. When you anticipate high traffic or want to ensure fault tolerance, using a web server as a load balancer can distribute requests evenly across the multi-server. So these are the three main significant points of when to use web server: to hosting a website, to building web applications, and to load balancing at the time of high traffic of request from the clients. So these are the some points. Next one, steps to use web server. Here we have total 5 steps here. The first one, choose a web server software. First you can choose or identify which software it can use to our as per our requirement. Select a web server software that suits your need. Apache, NGX, Lightspeed or popular choice depends on your requirements. Next, second one, install and configuration. So after choosing, just you can install and configuration, verify the details, and before installing, install and choosing web server software on your server hosting environment. Configure it by specifying settings such as document root, security rules, and virtual host. And upload your website. So after installing, just you can upload to the server, upload your website files to the server. This typically HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and any other assets like images or videos, whatever the data content you have, that can upload to the web server. And to test your website after upload the data, you can test whether it is working fine or not. Test your website by accessing through it web server. Ensure that it loads correctly and the all functionalities are expected to meet our goals. Next, monitor and maintenance. Regularly monitor your web server for performance, security, and updates. Implement security measures to protect against the threats or cyber attacks. So these are the 5 steps to in order to use web server. First, choose, install and configure, upload your web page, and test your website, then monitor and maintenance. So these are the 5 steps use of web server here. So these are the references I used for this lecture. Remaining continue with next lecture, that is cloud for IoT, different cloud service model, deployment models, service models, different types like uh, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, types, public cloud, private cloud, like that. We are going to discuss in the next lecture. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.